Welcome to FreedomCast, a podcast dedicated to interviewing star icons and entrepreneurs who have encouraged others to become more healthy and active. My name is Ashton, and it's my pleasure to host you as we take another trip through the fitness industry. It's entertaining and informative, and I hope it makes fitness more exciting and special to you in your own fitness journey. FreedomCast is supported by Freedom Fitness Equipment in Charlotte, North Carolina. Freedom Fitness Equipment serves the health and fitness community nationwide, from free weights and strength equipment for home gyms and studios to cardio and conditioning equipment for commercial spaces. Check them out at freedomfitnessequipment.com. Let's get rolling with today's show. Hansen on. She's a tank. She's amazing. She goes and you go to Unleashed Strength Gym in Manassas, Virginia, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Awesome. So give me and folks who are listening a little bit of background on yourself and why you got into powerlifting in the first place. You shouldn't be lifting. You're a woman.
Oh God. Yeah. I'll be the first one to tell you that's BS. I'll come after people. So I started lifting competitively in 2016. It was initially a lot of raw lifting. And then in around 2018, 19, I transitioned into equipped lifting and have been doing both ever since. Started powerlifting because I was doing roller derby, actually, and wanted to get stronger for pushing people around. And then powerlifting was the one that stuck with me. So I had to make some choices and powerlifting stuck around. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And, are you part of the crew with Jimmy as well?
I am. Yeah. So I started training. My home gym is actually in Dayton, Ohio. So I train and coach folks remotely out of there. And then I moved here because I got stationed in DC through the Air Force past couple of years. And I found Unleashed, and Jimmy reached out to me and he's like, "Hey, you want to come bench?" And I was like, "Jimmy Cole wants me to come bench with him?" Yes, please. I do want to come bench and squat and deadlift and do the other things. So yeah, found Unleashed and have been training there with Joe and Jimmy and Brian and Alfredo and that entire crew. There's a bunch of us now.
Yeah. Awesome. So roller derby, kind of the incentive, but since you got into powerlifting, it seems like you've gotten insanely competitive. So what are you lifting now? Have you competed, any records or anything like that?
Yeah, I competed a lot this year. Yeah, my coach will probably, I don't know, it's a double-edged sword because it's been cool to be really competitive, but also like there's been very minimal time in between those competitions to like work on some stuff. So we're taking an off season now to prep for 2022. But this past year I competed raw at the Kern in wraps, and then also raw and sleeves at the Showdown. Okay. And then I also did the WPO equipped. So it was a big year.
Nice. And just out of curiosity, what were we talking about numbers wise?
I think in wraps I squatted like 520 something. My bench, and then in sleeves it was 479. My bench is 330 raw and deadlift is 529 raw. And then equipped in multiply is 765 squat, 435, I think, bench, and then 560 something deadlift, 565. I don't know.
Oh my gosh. So multiply adds a significant amount of weight to the amount you can lift. I talked with Jimmy a good bit about this. What, in terms of percentages, I mean, it sounds like we're talking 20 or 30% to your lifting totals is what multiply adds.
Yeah, it's really, really hard to kind of make those comparisons because it's dependent on like how proficient that person is in the equipment and also like how it fits them, their leverages, their body mechanics, all of those things. So it adds a significant amount, especially to the squat and the bench press. The deadlift, you don't get as much help from that suit as you would compared to like your raw lifting. So you do get a little help from the straps, but it's not as drastic as the jumps in squat and bench press that you'll see.
Gotcha. And for raw lifting, you're not allowed to wear strap assists.
Nope, nothing.
Gotcha. What made you want to do multiply as well as raw? Because I was talking to Jimmy, it seems like there's an injury factor, to be concerned with on the raw side, but that's why he went to multiply. But what's your logic with that?
So, I mean, a lot of, even in my equipped training, a lot of my lifting is already raw. And I kind of like the idea of being like a unicorn kind of.
Yeah.
Because there's not a lot of people that do both. And I think that there's a lot to gain that raw lifters have to gain from either learning or like supplementing some of their training with equipped lifting. And I also think there's a lot to gain from like crossing over those two worlds and having my friends who are raw lifters learn a little bit about equipment, and my friends who are equipped lifters learn a little bit about what the raw world does and like those type of meets, and like getting more exposure for the equipped side by doing the bigger raw meets and vice versa. So
Gotcha.
that's kind of the driving factor there. Plus I love equipped lifting. I love powerlifting in like all of its forms. And I just think it's really fun. So I'm like, if my body lets me do it, I want to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I'm sure. So, have you sustained very many injuries since doing raw versus equipped, or has it been pretty
No,
steady?
knock on wood.
Yeah,
Yeah,
awesome.
my coach has been really great about formatting my training from like a really strategic level into like over spans of years,
Mhm.
to try and mitigate some of those injuries and like develop a baseline level of athleticism before, like, I'm always an athlete before I'm a power lifter. So
Okay.
we do cartwheels and splits and like CrossFit type of stuff. And we have general physical preparedness. And I wholeheartedly believe that's a big part of why I've been able to stay injury free
Awesome.
for the most part. Everyone
Yeah,
hurts. There's a difference between being hurt and being injured.
sure. So, so with putting up such amazing number, so are you coaching anybody, or have you started coaching anybody since you started powerlifting? Oh, also, how long have you been powerlifting anyway?
I did my first contest in 2016. So 6-ish years.
I'm sorry, you're putting up those numbers in 6 years.
Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah, we've had some good gradual gains in all those areas, which I'm super happy with. Thanks for the genetics, Dad.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, like at what point did you figure out I'm pretty damn good at this?
Well, one of the things my coach Marcus and we've talked about extensively is like identifying potential in people. And that was one of the things, like when we have someone who walks in the door, say they want to power lift, we're like, okay, what is the what are the limb lengths look like? What is this person's like fitness base, even if they've never lifted before in their life? So like that genetic potential, the mental potential of like, you think this person like is here for the long haul type of thing, by talking to them, getting to know them. And it was after like kind of talking to my dad, because he power lifted too back in the 90s, and that was like a big
Oh,
factor in me thinking, he did pretty well and we're built pretty similar.
nice.
And then bouncing it off my coach and having other people tell me like, you could do some cool stuff in this sport. And I was
Yeah,
like, yeah, let's do it. Let's see how far we can go with this. So
awesome. And what have you gotten any blowback from people about, oh my gosh, this woman shouldn't be doing powerlifting, or has the community been pretty supportive up to this point?
thankfully, no. I do unfortunately know some people who have gotten, the internet's a just disgusting, gross place, with lots of bad takes on things. But thankfully, I have not. Um, but I do know that exists. And I think since I've started, and even before that, with like my roller derby background, that's a very like female empowering sport. Like it's all women just going and beating the crap out of each other and going fast. And kind of taking that mindset and applying it to powerlifting and making sure like I can control my own actions and I can control the culture and I guess affect the culture in whatever gym or subculture organization that I'm a part of. And I try really hard, if I do hear that stuff, if it's within my power, to shut it down. And also empower other women who might think, oh no, I don't want to get bulky, or I don't want to, those are things that people think. Like, we've been programmed for years and years and years of magazines and pop culture to, there's this ideal female body type or how a woman should act, which 2021, like, that's not the case. Like, we do what we want. If we want to lift weights, we're going to lift some freaking weights.
Exactly.
So thankfully I haven't experienced that. And we've actually been doing a lot of stuff. I'm working on a project right now with, I don't know if there are 3 other powerlifters, Leah Reichman, Tara Duncan, and then Allison Hind or Hind. Okay. I always say it wrong. Yeah, 3 absolute powerhouses, incredible women. And we're working on a project called the Main Event Project right now. And it's basically a platform for us to raise money to put forth prize money for female meet winners, scholarships for females, and basically make kind of reach out to meet directors and federations to ensure that there is equality within the sport. A lot of these meet directors are already doing wonderful things with making sure that that prize money and recognition is equal for both men and women. But some people don't always have that experience. So we're trying to build that awareness, educate people that, yes, you should have this standard when you go and compete at a meet. And we want to try and throw money at things that are actually upholding that standard and support women within the sport.
That's awesome, first of all, but that is getting a lot, like powerlifting in particular, and these federations are getting a lot more of attention. It seems to me now, I mean, even on the guys' side, they weren't getting paid a hill of beans up until even recently for going to these competitions. Like, you couldn't really make a living unless you were an influencer and doing all sorts of horrible, crazy things. And now, and I know on the female side, it's even worse because who was Gabby Bergelser, who won the America's Strongest Woman. She got a nice hug, pat on the back, and a trophy. Zero for winning that competition. And that is nationwide.
Nuts.
Nationwide.
Yeah, that's not okay. That's what we're trying to get away from.
And it blows my mind because I know women aren't lifting as much as guys are, but the numbers you guys are putting up are absolutely insane. Like world record setting insane, and needs to, in my opinion, it needs to be recognized. And so whether that's like you guys creating these kind of groups or whatever, I think that's fantastic. Has anybody else, so it's you 4 just basically kind of cross promoting and trying to build up is it a scholarship fund, and kind of people are just donating to make that happen?
Yeah, so it's still in the very early stages. We just created our Instagram page and are working on some logos. We have the initial like fundraising activity will be this t-shirt design, and basically like promoting our goals and our vision and message, and then going on like a campaign to reach out to meet directors and federations with the things that we want to make sure that are seen in these meets. And then also encourage the meet directors and federations that are already doing these things. And then, I mean, my DMs fill up, and so do Leah's and Allison's and Tara's, with women looking at us as examples of like, hey, I want to do my first meet. Where do I go? And we want to make sure that we give them a good direction of like, hey, if we recommend a meet or a federation or whatever, likely it'll just be meet, because it's hard to stick yourself with one federation depending on where you live. But we want to make sure that they're getting those good experiences. And by reaching out to these folks and ensuring that they're on board with the things that we're wanting for female athletes, we can push those folks to those meets. Awesome. And then they'll have a good time and hopefully stay in the sport. Because we have a lot of folks who will come in for maybe one competition, or maybe they don't have a great time, or they're not at a gym that has the things that they need. So we want to make sure that we're giving them access and information and pointing them in those right directions so that we retain them. Cause like, I'm always looking, like, even when I coach, I'm looking, okay, who's my replacement? Who is going to take over for me when I'm done with this and like carry the torch? Cause for me, it's more than just lifting weights. It's like, I give a crap about the sport. I want it to stay around. I want it to evolve into something that is amazing. I want people to get paid for their hard work. And all that good stuff. So that's the idea behind what we're trying to do with that.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure it's all, and I'm sure you can speak to this as well, but I'm so tired of fitfluencers, especially on the female side, who have, I'll just be perfectly blunt about it, a massive ass, and that is their only defining quality. They're not really that strong. They just look like they're strong. They're juicing it up, and I don't care about the juicing side as much, but they're lying to their fan base about all these kinds of things. And what I really appreciate about you and folks like yourself you're not only encouraging women to be strong, but you're also being transparent about what it takes and actually like doing something about it instead of saying, oh, you can just get 6-minute abs or do something like this. Like I'm sure you say all the time, it's really hard work.
Yeah, absolutely. And that it's frustrating on our end too, because like those people who are pushing fit tees and waist trainers and, the snake oil, like they're making bank off of it, which is really frustrating because, we're spending so much time in the gym and years, like it takes years and years, like you're at a decade of time, like of just training and building your base before you're even at these huge level contests. For the most part, there are some anomalies out there, that's for sure. And good for them because that rules if you can get there really quickly. But like, want to make sure that it's not a secret. Like you just need to put the time in. And it's frustrating to see the fitness industry. Luckily, I've curated my feed pretty well. I don't see a whole lot of that stuff. But every once in a while, like my coach or someone will send me just like some absurd post of like, oh, just drink apple cider vinegar and some lemon for a while and your delts will cap off. And you're like, what? No, you need to lift heavy. You need to be squatting. Like you want this giant butt that is so in trend right now. And people ask me and they're like, oh my God, how do I get legs like yours? I was like, you need to eat. You don't want to hear the answers I'm going to give you, but you need to lift heavy and you need to eat because likely you're undersized.
Yeah. Well, and unfortunately, those are the two things that, at least in my experience, and I'm married, so like my wife knows this very well, the under eating and the not being willing to train heavy are the two main sticking points on the female side. The guys have different issues, obviously, but like, I feel like those two, I just keep hearing over and over and over again. You're not eating enough. You're starving yourself. Not willing to lift heavy. You just want to tone, whatever that.
Yeah. And that comes, in my opinion, it just comes from like being inundated with this propaganda all throughout growing up. Like whatever your parents or your mom and your grandma and all of like the female lineage in your family, like that's where you get your information from. Plus social media, which is very misleading. And it's just a lack of education. So if I can get a hold of someone and be like, listen to me, please, I will help you. Tell me the things that you want. Tell me the end goal and we can work backwards from there. But unfortunately, like I'm just one person. So that's why we're kind of creating this coalition between, my gym and coaching and educating on that side. And then also the main event project with trying to get equal opportunities for women in lifting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
On the training side, I am curious about what it looks like during the week for a competitive powerlifter like yourself. I mean, are you, and obviously, so can you talk a little bit about what it looks like for you as a competitive powerlifter versus somebody who just wants to get strong and not necessarily compete?
So really it's the same thing. Okay. So our crew, not the one at Unleash, but the one at the Dirty Gym back in Ohio, my home gym, like that crew is comprised of people, like some of them don't want to compete. Some of them just want to get strong.
Yeah.
They lift the same lifts as we do. They do the same workouts. They do the same, heavy lifting, heavy squats, heavy benches, and then also like general fitness stuff. And then the difference happens in the break off of like, okay, I've identified a contest that I want to do. Let's actually kind of peel that person away, and we will increase specificity. We'll, have tapers, deloads, and it'll be just a little more strategic in terms of how we're lifting, how often we're lifting, and then like peaking that person for their meet.
Yep.
Yeah.
And from a peaking standpoint, because I'm considering to do a powerlifting competition myself in March.
Yes.
Are you essentially during a peak, are you getting stronger to that point, at which point you're your strongest, or is it you're essentially maintaining to that point, just getting more specific about the lift so that you're the best? Well, no, it doesn't make sense. So you'll be getting stronger to that point, and that's your plateau.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, you'll absolutely, like that entire peaking process, depending on which type of method you're using, is all geared towards that one day of performance. And your different percentages and loads and rep ranges and set ranges will kind of fluctuate depending on the method you're using up until that day.
Okay.
And then, every kind of method is different, and everyone, I don't like the cookie cutter programs with powerlifting. Some of them are really effective, especially with like a brand new person. Like they could run Russian volume and peak for a meet and be awesome and get PRs all throughout the board. And that has a lot to do with like newbie gains, which is awesome, and take advantage of that.
Yeah.
But like me, we've had to get pretty creative with my training, especially going back and forth between raw and equipped and peaking for multiple different types of meets a year. And then I got my own issues. Like everyone has their own issues. I got issues getting under a straight bar super often because the shoulder hurts when I go to bench, bicep tendonitis. So we rotate through specialty bars in order to save my shoulder, but I'm still getting that work. So yeah, it's very dependent on the person, what their goal is, and then what they can handle. And then sometimes handle physically, mentally is even more important on that side. Cause like you throw someone in like a Shako program and they get bored really easily. The chances of them completing that program or doing it properly are slim to none because they're going to be too bored. Gotcha. And it only works if you do it. So that plays the factor into it.
Tell folks at home, I understand a little bit about this, but tell folks at home why you would not just want to continuously run a peaking program, deload, run a peaking program, deload. You have to have an off season, but why specifically?
I mean, you have to train to train. That was one of the things that got instilled to me. Like you need to go back to basics. It is important to give your body a chance to rest. There's a lot of lifters out there that don't like the term off season or deload, even though they do those things. They probably just don't call them that. And you will burn out, you will plateau if you are constantly just going. And also like mentally, that's really tough on your brain. If you're, just starting off and you just hit it really hard for a long time and then peak meet. And you're only getting maybe like 2 or 3 pound PRs. Like that's rough. Like you're setting your internal mind up for failure that way. If you don't take time and like go back to general athleticism, like let's build our motor. Let's build your muscular endurance. Cause sometimes you'll get into a peaking program and you won't be able to complete the workouts because you are not at an appropriate level of fitness yet to complete that workout because you didn't do the work beforehand. It's like my coach says this thing, it's like taking master level classes as a freshman.
Yeah.
And it's a recipe for failure.
Sure. Yeah. So your body will, I know your body needs that break at some point. Is it more of a, so recovery plays a huge role in that, I would assume. And how long would an off season be for you if you're doing something? Is it 6 months? I mean, would you take an entire year off?
I mean, you absolutely could. I know some people who do that. Typically mine are about 3 to 6 months.
Okay.
6 months being really long. I don't think I've taken that long of an off season in a few years. But like, I just had the showdown at the end of September. I'm doing a bench only meet, which I don't count that into my like whole year's resume. Not that doing bench only isn't difficult, because it is. But then my next meet won't be until, so September of 2021, my next meet won't be until April.
Okay.
So that entire time minus however many 12 to 16 weeks in a prep prior to the April meet is off season.
Gotcha. Okay. I have some questions about equipment, and also I've got some gripes about equipment too in the competitions, but also some questions about, what was the other thing? Crud. I'll remember it in a minute. Anyway, equipment. So I was thinking about this as I was training through doing bench. And we've got there's a local gym here, and usually the vinyl in those benches is about worn as smooth as glass, and you're going to slide right off the freaking thing. In a competition, do they have sticky pad vinyl type material, or is it exactly the same across the board, just this crappy, like smooth vinyl, no matter what competition you go to?
No, usually the contest equipment is really high quality. It depends on the federation that you're in, but typically, like if you're on a bench and it's a competition bench, like you're gonna have more of a grippier surface. There's the Go Strong ER racks. There's like the Forza benches. Like all of those typically have a little more texture on them than the really slick ones. For that reason specifically, because that does suck.
Yeah.
Because you can't get in position. You're just going to slide everywhere. And it's not good.
Yeah. And then I don't know if I did talk to Jimmy a little bit about this, because he's a bench press specialist, and he just laid into these stupid freaking combo racks with no spotter arms on your chest. What the hell?
Yeah.
Like what? Why? And so I'm curious about your answer on that one.
No, I'm with him there. I think the same opinion I have about that is the same thing, like my gripe about federations that don't use monolifts and make you walk it out. Well, even if, go ahead, walk it out in a monolift where there are like safety mechanisms and it's not super rickety and you're just like kind of getting jerked around. It's like, it's safety. And also like benching in those ER racks, especially when you're Jimmy Kolb, is just you're not going to put 1,000+ pounds on that and feel safe. Like I don't even feel safe with like 300 pounds on it.
Yeah.
Just because of how, like, it's not going anywhere. I know that it's fine, but it just, something about that peace of mind, knowing that your equipment is going to be there for you on game day and you don't have to worry about that. You just have to worry about lifting. Is just, you're just going to perform better. It's confidence in your equipment and your spotters. And if you get out there and the platform has crappy equipment, then that's going to feel really bad.
I'll be frank, I'm not sure that those squat racks would stay in position for any significant amount of weight. I think you said your squat was 750 on a multiply. So if you're racking 750 and nobody's holding down those flimsy little, like they're only this big on the catches, and you go into those full speed and you're essentially falling forward because you missed a step. I'm not sure that is actually staying upright.
No, there's no way I'd ever take an equipped squat on anything other than a monolift. Yeah. No way. And most other equipped lifters won't ever do that either, because it's too scary. It's too dangerous. And like the risk versus reward, there is no reward. That you don't compete in that. So why would you use it? I mean, some people, that's all they have, and I understand, and you got to make the most out of what you have. But if you got a mono, use the freaking mono. Even if you're walking out your squats, use the mono, have someone run it for you. Have like, a lot of people are like scared of equipment that they don't understand. And I always try and like keep an eye on people who are like, they'll look at the mono and be like, what the hell is that weird contraption? And like explore it a little bit. And I'll try and go up to that person if I notice they're a little confused. I'm like, hey, do you want me to teach you how to use this? Because it's a really cool piece of equipment and very safe. And then you got another person that knows how to run the mono for you when you need it.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. They're built so well. I need to have one in my home gym. I don't have room.
They're a huge footprint, and that's all they do is you squat in them, you do your good mornings. That's it. You can't bench in them.
They need to find a way to create a full monolift setup within a power rack. And I know they have those monolift attachment arms. They're just really not the same. They sketch me out far enough. Yeah, they're. I keep hit the Titan ones in particular. Unfortunately, Rogue makes them better. Rogue swings further back, but you'll actually hit the Titan ones going up and down, which is good.
I bought the Bells of Steel one during COVID. I put a little setup in my basement, and even those ones, I'm just like, I don't know. I'm just gonna go out of the J hooks and do raw stuff instead.
Yeah, it's better to be safe than sorry. Okay, now so sumo deadlift, conventional deadlift, sumo squat, regular squat preferences.
Personal preferences. I mean, so in equipped lifting, I squat relatively wide. That's just what you got to do in order to get the most out of your gear.
Okay.
And I pull sumo equipped, which also is a little better for me in terms of leverages and using the equipment. And then raw, up until now, I've pulled conventional. It's not a matter for me of like, I've never had the mindset of sumo is cheating. It is absolutely not. If it's whatever way you could pick that bar off the ground.
I agree.
And personally, like conventional, my numbers were higher. So I'm going to do the one that gets me the bigger total.
Yeah.
Now I'm taking time this off season to learn sumo because it is better for my leverages, like technically from like a physics perspective. I just never figured out how to do it right. So taking time to do that. And then I squat pretty narrow raw. Like I'm about around a little wider than shoulder width apart with my feet.
Okay. And out of curiosity, why is sumo advantageous with gear and also the wide squat with gear?
It has to do with how your hips are set within that equipment. And there's a lot of, so compared to raw, there's a lot more of like hip hinge movement in equipped lifting. So loading your hips up and building tension in your hips while using that compression of the suit and also like the straps, like holding you in. If you're coming down, like those straps will help you pop off the floor a little easier. And also it's really hard to get down to the bar in full gear. So it's way easier to get into a sumo position in full gear. And also I think that you just get more out of the equipment because of the way that the hips are loaded versus conventional. Cause you're using just different muscle groups. So getting down to the bar plus loading those hips is why for me specifically, sumo is more beneficial for equipped lifting.
Gotcha. And for squats and for deadlifts, are you using the same type of equipment or are you having to switch out in between lifts?
I got to switch out. So on my squat for equipped lifting, I have a pair of Inzer Predator briefs and then a Leviathan Ultra Pro Inzer suit, and that's the lace up one.
Okay.
So I got briefs underneath, suit on top for squats, and then bench, everything's got to come off. You go get in your shirt. And then for deadlifts, I ditch the briefs and it's just my suit that is laced up for deadlifts.
Gotcha. Do the briefs don't add anything on a deadlift? Really?
So it depends. I know people who wear them and get a lot out of them. I personally am not mobile to have that much fabric around my hips to basically lock it out. If I
Okay.
have that much bunching up, it actually works against me to lock out the deadlift, which sucks. Um, and in a deadlift equipped, you get the most help out of that hip compression, but also the straps that are like already kind of like pulling you up from the get-go. Um, so that's where like most of the help on the deadlift is. And I'm just not mobile enough to have that much fabric around my hips. And I don't like super tight gear either. I don't like being bound up because sometimes it'll fold on itself and that creates issues. There's a lot of a lot of variables in equipped lifting, which is why it's so fun.
Gotcha. Any preferences? I did talk a little bit before about different brands, and I know there's certain brands that are just like I think you just mentioned Inzer a couple of times, but any preferences on brands? If somebody wants to get into multiply, what are the kind of the best brands you look at?
So I mean, mostly how people get into multiply is they're just like given a hand-me-down set of something of briefs typically. And a lot of times like people just stick with what they're given. But like Inzer has never done me dirty on any equipment. I love Titan bench shirts. Like a Titan Super Katana is an incredible bench shirt to start off with. It's tough to learn, but if you learn that, then you can pretty much bench in anything. Overkill equipment, I've heard really great things about it. It looks super cool. It does look like really aggressive equipment though, so I don't know if that would be like my first like go-to for a new equipped lifter, but Inzer, Titan, I think those are the two big ones.
Okay, gotcha. And then going off of back to personal life, you mentioned early on, you said Air Force. I apologize. Okay, so sorry.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah. What got you into the military, and are you in that long term, or are you just serving term and getting out of there?
Well, last year I hit my 10-year mark. So
wow, awesome.
I think I'm in it for the long haul now. Might as well do the next 10 and retire. But I got in through ROTC. I come from a family of a bunch of Marines.
No way.
So I was like, yeah, I'm not going that route. I'm going to go to school and go to the Air Force.
No.
So I get ragged on quite a bit at home for being the only Air Force dork. But I was like, I just have fun hanging out and staying in tents. I'll be at the Marriott.
Hey.
They don't like that part. But no, it's all in good fun. Like it's fun family rivalry. But nice. Yeah, my job rules. I like being in the Air Force, like first and foremost, like Air Force officer, teacher, like mentor. That's the stuff that I love doing. And that's kind of why I gravitated so much towards coaching. Just because I like helping people get better and improve and like helping their quality of life and all of that good stuff, and just kind of giving them the tools and what they need and like seeing what they do with it. And then, push them along, helping out where I can. It's like, that's my shit.
Nice. What's your rank and position? So what are you doing in the Air Force now?
So I just put on major right now. Wow. I'm in DC. I'm doing executive officer work, so it's not super exciting. It's a lot of admin and awards and like care and feeding of people. But I'm headed back to Ohio to work in an ROTC program at a university there next summer. So I'm really excited about that. I get to teach some college kids how to Air Force and help bring up the next generation.
That's fantastic. Yeah. And then you mentioned roller derby. How many years in that? How did you get into roller derby to begin with?
Yeah, I was, I don't remember how long. I think I maybe did it for like 3 or 4 years. It wasn't super long. But I was bored as hell out in New Mexico when I was stationed there, and there was nothing to do. And I knew how to skate because I did figure skating growing up. Like that was my sport. And I saw these like ads and everything for roller derby. I'm like, oh, that sounds pretty fun. Went to just an open skate and like found some other folks who were like either military spouses or in the military themselves, and started making friends and joined the team and played for a team in New Mexico. And then I played for West Texas for 4 years.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So you're no longer doing roller derby. That was just for
No.
time.
Yeah, I do I'll just skate for fun, and my friends and I will go to like skate parks and whatever and get on the ramps, which is a good time. But it's a big commitment. Derby is a big commitment because that is every single one of those teams is a nonprofit and they're skater owned and operated. So like if you're on the team, then you're volunteering a lot of your time to run that league or that team. So on top of practices, you're either like training coordinator or merch, or you're putting together like bout venues. Like it's a lot of work.
Wow. And were you a competitive figure skater before that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It was when I was a kid, and I was a little too big to keep in that sport, which sucks because I really liked it. I liked jumping and spinning, but never really had the grace part down. And also that's a freaking expensive sport to be in. So my mom was like, I don't think we can keep this up. Let's find something else. Okay.
Nice. That's awesome. Any competitions that you've got for powerlifting coming up? And you mentioned, so going back between Ohio and Virginia must be a pain in the rear end. So like, how are you balancing that?
So I go back there maybe like once every few months, 4 to 6 months, whatever. So I work for the Dirty Gym as an additional job to the military, and I coach remotely. So I can do all of that stuff here. I have one athlete that I coach is actually in the area, so I get to see him one-on-one, which is really nice. But the rest of them, like, they're in Dayton, Ohio, North Carolina, Georgia, kind of all over the place, which is cool because then like I'll have them come up here and visit me, and we'll go train at Unleashed, which Joe's been awesome about entertaining all of my many guests that I just bring through for drop-ins. Or I'll go to Ohio, or I'll go to their meets and handle them, and get a chance to meet and do some work. So it's challenging, but
I can imagine. Well, and your time management must be on point.
Could be better, but
well, everybody's can. Ohio. So I'm actually from Stowe, which is between Akron and Cleveland.
No way.
I kid you
I'm
not.
from Lodi, Ohio. Do you know where that is?
I do not. It's been a while. So
Medina.
I know. Oh man, the name rings a bell, but unless you can say it in regards to Akron or Cleveland, I have no idea.
Yeah, it's like a little bit south of Akron, so it's like right in that area. We were like 45 minutes away from Stowe because I used to figure skate up there because there was a rink.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, freaking small world.
I know, right? So yeah, we moved down to the Carolinas when I was probably 12 or 13, but been in Charlotte ever since. Ohio. Ohio seems to be born and breeding powerlifters on a daily basis. Do you know why that is? I wasn't in lifting it when I was there, so I have no idea. But like, what about Ohio is so cool about that? Like, why are they doing that?
That's a great question. I think there's just a lot of corn-fed, strong, bored people out there. And if you think about like powerlifting history and strength sport history, like a lot of really prominent events and locations are in Ohio. So Arnold Sports Fest, Columbus, Ohio, Westside Barbell, Columbus, Ohio, Elite FTS, London, Ohio, Rogue Fitness, Columbus, Ohio. So it's just, I don't know why all those places chose Ohio, but they did. And I think that is kind of what turned it into like the powerlifting capital. There's so many gyms there. There's Sweatshop, Cincinnati. There's my gym, the Dirty Gym, West Side, Elite FTS, Eaton Barbell, like a bunch of them up in Toledo and near the colleges. And there's just a lot of strong people coming out of there and coming out of the colleges like Ohio State, Kent, UD, all of those places. West Virginia has a lot of strong people too that usually migrate to Ohio at some point to do some lifting. Indiana, Kentucky, Northern Kentucky has a lot as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
I knew that a lot of businesses had established their, I don't know, lifting presence and fitness presence up there, but I could never pin down exactly why. I'm a huge fan of Dave Tate, by the way. So
Me too. Dave's awesome.
Have you ever been able to go to his gym, by the way, or been in around
I
there?
have not actually. I have not been to Illy FTS, unfortunately. I've been to all of the other gyms that are in that area.
Nice.
I haven't been able to go there. Hopefully, I think we're trying to organize some sort of trip out there. So we got a bunch of people competing at a meet called North of the Border at Laura Phelps's gym at the Sweatshop. So a lot of us are driving out from Virginia to go watch and help in early November. And I think one of our guys that we train with, Owen, is trying to orchestrate a visit for us. So maybe, hopefully soon, I'll be able to say that I have visited there.
Awesome. Yeah, I don't know if it's at one point I thought he had said it was invite only, but then I see random people going in and out, so I have no freaking idea. You've got enough clout where you could just be like, yo, Dave, let me let me in, bro.
Yeah, I don't know about all that, but I mean, usually if it, you make enough friends and you are able to like find people who either work there, because I don't think we're gonna go in and train. We just want to go see it.
Yeah.
And like, that's kind of that's why Louis opens West Side during the Arnold weekend, so that people could come see it. Some people get workouts in, that's invite only. But it's also a way for you to like network and basically like grow your following, grow your supporters type of thing. So
yeah,
we'll see what he says. I don't know.
Totally. Speaking of following and networking, that kind of thing. I mean, you have a pretty significant following on Instagram yourself, but how has that grown?
Lord, I don't know why.
I was just gonna ask, like, so how are people hearing about? People just see, oh my gosh, she's killing it in competitions. Let's go follow this chick. Like, how is that happening?
I like to think it's because of my awesome memes that I put out there. Because I think that I'm a pretty good meme dealer, but I know that it's not just that. A lot of my posts, like most of it, is just, it's a training log for me, and I write some stupid captions with whatever I'm thinking at the time, and I think it's funny. I don't care if anyone else does, but apparently other people do, so that's cool. I've met some of my best friends on that stupid app that is also toxic as hell, but it's great. It's so great when you like, I have all my settings like dialed in and like perfect to where I only see the stuff that I want to see. I only interact with people who I either know or like are in powerlifting. Like I just cut out all of the chaff. And now because of that, it's really good. And I've made some really great friendships on there. It's a good resource when I'm traveling across country and I just shoot it out on my story. Like, hey, I'm driving through this state. Where are the powerlifting gyms at? And I'll get people like, hey, come train here. Or like, hey, I love this gym. I used to train there. Like, you should check it out. And I'm like, sweet. And then I find it and call them up, and vice versa. People reach out to me and they're like, hey, I'm rolling through Virginia. Like, what's the drop-in thing like at Unleashed? Or I'm going to Ohio and I need a place to train. Or even just like growing coaching clientele, recruiting for our, Dirty Gym team, which we do something a little differently. And we have an entire like powerlifting team who we go to the same meets as each other. We try and qualify for the same meets. We show up like in full force to those meets. So it's not just like me, I'm alone and unafraid, I'm going to go do a powerlifting meet. It's like, no, your team is there. Your team helped you through the training process and all of that stuff. And we wanted to create that sort of culture. where we're at is that we kind of have the same thing at Unleashed too. Like Jimmy has a meet, we all go to it. At York, we all kind of do the same stuff there. So I think that's really cool. And all that happened because of freaking Instagram, because Jimmy Kolb sent me a DM one day, and I'm training at a gym 10 minutes away from Unleash. I have no idea Unleash even exists. Sends me a DM and is like, hey, you want to come bench with us? I'm like, where's this place at? It's 10 minutes away from where I'm training. I'm already in Manassas. Like, why am I not training here? And I would have never known had Instagram not been a thing.
I would have never connected with probably half of the people I've connected, not only for the podcast, but also just,
Yeah.
I mean, Joe's such a good guy over at Unleash, and like,
He's the best.
I'll keep up with different people. I just recently saw, it's just weird because I kind of straddle two spaces. I straddle the gym equipment space as well as the fitness, just general space. And I'm finding all sorts of people who are starting really cool, interesting things over in the one that kind of, I'm like, hey man, these people need to hear about this too. Like, have you seen this bar rescue thing? It's like, I can't believe
heard of it.
I cannot believe this has not been invented already, but like a scrub brush for your barbell, freaking A, like who? Awesome.
Billy Mays here.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm like, everybody needs to hear about this. So I love that the community can kind of just, I don't know, get it. It's a little bit easier for the community to kind of support each other and know good lifters. I would never have heard of half the people I've heard of and gotten recommendations for other people like yourself if I hadn't had and seen videos from different people. Like Red 5 Performance has been recommended to me. The guy who was up in actually used to be up in Ohio, now he's down in Florida. Trains like elite professional athletes and all that good stuff. But anyway, yeah, it's a really good tool. And so all I'm saying, I agree with you. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And that's what I think if you use it properly, like that way, like it can be really powerful with just like making connections and linking two things together. And that's why I'm like, my charge of being a raw lifter and an equipped lifter and like melding those two worlds so that they're not so totally foreign to each other is like, Instagram makes it a lot easier for me.
Yes. I'm sure. Oh man, that is also what I want to ask you about is the hate that you get for being equipped. Also, but you're also raw, so I'm sure that's like blowing people's minds. So what kind of reactions are you getting to like, oh, you're a multiplayer, it doesn't count?
Honestly, not much.
Okay.
I mean, hardly. I mean, if I do get any sort of like negative feedback, it's from people who don't even lift. So like, that doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
And it's easy for me to discount opinions of people who are like, you're not even in it on any like part of the spectrum. So like, I don't care what you were saying. But like, that's why I try to talk to so many people and try and like interact. Cause if someone has like, I can't tell you how many conversations I've had in DMs with people. They're like, I'm a raw lifter, but like you also do equipped lifting. And like all the equipped lifters at my gym are really annoying. And they just come in and smash their heads on the barbell and like sniff some ammonia and squat high and leave. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. That really sucks. I can tell you that that's not how it is everywhere. And like, this is why equipped lifting is cool. And like, I try to set the example as an equipped lifter and a raw lifter. I squat to standard in both sets of the rules, which are exactly the same, by the way. No one remembers that. And I'm like, this is how it can be done. We can do this the right way and like set that example on both sides. So I don't get a ton of hate on either side of the spectrum, thankfully, because I'm able to just be like, hey man, why are you so upset about this? Like, we're just lifting weights, settle down. Also, like, do you want to talk about it? Because I would love to try and change your mind. Like, I would absolutely love to do that. Like, challenge accepted. And even if you leave the conversation with me, like, I don't want to do equip lifting. That's fine. I just want you to respect other people who choose to do it, because it is fun and it is another way of prolonging your career through protecting your joints and also supplementing and augmenting your raw lifts. So just like people use slingshots, that's equip lifting. Your wrist straps, that's equip lifting. Your knee sleeves. If you want to do reverse band bench press raw, that's equip lifting, that's accommodating resistance. Like you're using a tool to help you achieve a certain intent for your workout or for the platform. And that's the same thing.
The biggest thing to me was what you said about longevity. I think if more people really understood, so I'm again going to go back to Dave Tate. The man has had more surgeries and injuries than I think I've heard almost any, and that's a commonality across professional powerlifters. And I don't think, tell me if I'm wrong, you hear that as much against with folks who have been in multiply for an extended period of time. You just don't have the same kinds of injuries and full knee replacements like on a regular basis.
Yeah. Brutal.
Yeah. So I just can't imagine lifting for that long and you've got, at some point you're going to have to put on knee sleeves just because of age, if nothing else, but like not doing anything for that long. Like you have to be equipped in some sort of way as you get older. So it's just, these aren't going to last that.
People get into this sport because they like lifting weights. One guy that I absolutely love spending time with and talking to is Donnie Thompson.
Yeah.
And he is like inventor, genius, extraordinaire, like incredible at looking at things and figuring out like an invention or some way to like improve your longevity or like help out with a certain aspect, like the bow tie. Incredible invention. People think it's for your posture, but it's literally just for compression. You put knee sleeves on, it compresses your knees. You put wraps or a suit or whatever, you're literally just doing that for your upper body with the bow tie. And people use it in so many different ways to prolong. Like he talks about people, like he created it for people like athletes and like cosmetologists are using it and tattoo artists are using it. Like just cool ways that like it's not just about this one little tiny thing, and like taking a step back and looking at the big picture of like, okay, I love to do this thing. How can I do this thing that I love to do for the longest amount of time possible? And in that case, like if you're talking about powerlifting, like the answer is equipment. And mobility, and like the answer is way more complex than that. But like if you want a little tiny piece of longevity, like you can use equipment to help with that.
Final question before I let you go. It is powerlifting similar to strongman in that it is simply an excuse for people to get fat?
Oh man, I don't think so, because all the powerlifters that I know are jacked. And most of the strongman competitors that I know are jacked. Like you absolutely can be fat and do well. But like there comes a point where you're like, do I want to have high cholesterol and have high blood pressure and be pre-hypertensive at 24, or do I want to like have good quality of life? So I think that it is easy for someone who is just starting in the sport to maybe think that. However, once you get into it and you realize like how athletic and fit a lot of these people are, it's like, yeah. And you look at people all the way at the top. You go to open powerlifting and you go through the top 20 on any category and you're like, okay, cool. Jacked, healthy. The same thing. You go to the Arnold Sports Fest and you watch like Thor and Eddie and, all of those high level competitors. Like they're not out of shape. They're running around with yokes that weigh 800 plus pounds,
literally
like
running
distance.
Running.
Like they're doing okay. Now I'm not a doctor, but so caveat, not a doctor. But yeah, I don't think that it's an excuse to just be fat and strong, because that's only going to take you so far. You could be fat and strong for maybe like a season or a couple years, and then you fizzle out and you're like, man, I've plateaued because I haven't changed my body composition or adjusted things to get into the appropriate weight class for my height and build, which is another big problem in powerlifting. People spend way too much time in incorrect weight classes for optimal performance. That kind of goes back to it. Like if you're too fat, like that's going to hinder you. Like, yeah, mass moves mass. However, muscle mass versus fat mass, like again, not a doctor. It's just different body composition, and one is more optimal than the other for moving weight.
Yep. Somebody who's built like Thor and most of it's fat is not going to be able to lift as much as somebody who's built like Thor. So
yep. True that.
Awesome. Well, Amber, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad Joe linked us up. He's the man.
Yeah. He's awesome. So glad you guys are able to train with him and you found a great gym in Manassas. I've been really, if I ever am coming through that way, I'm coming to visit you guys.
Yeah. So. Come out. If you come through Ohio, I got plenty of gyms for you to visit there. Yeah. Where are you? Where are you? Oh my God. Where are you in North Carolina, South Carolina?
Carolina. We're in Charlotte, North Carolina. Okay. So we're not too far. I've got family in Richmond. So we're traveling through that general area anyway on semi-regular basis. But yeah.
One of my athletes is near Fayetteville. Okay, and then Donnie's gym, the storage shed, is out there in Columbia. I think that's South Carolina. So, I'm the worst at the Carolina. Like anytime there's a state that has a north and a south, I'm like, just the Carolina.
Well, it doesn't help that North and South Carolina both have a Greenville. I kid you not. There's a Greenville, South Carolina, and a Greenville,
North Carolina. That's messed up. That's just rude.
Somebody just decided to screw with people's heads. You said Donnie Thompson's gym is in South Carolina.
It's in North or I can't remember.
Columbia is South Carolina. So
Columbia is where it's at. Yeah.
Because I've been meaning I need to touch base with that guy. I did message him. I know he's insanely busy, so he probably never even saw it. But I really want to get him on here because I've heard so many good things about obviously the bow tie and the equipment that he has. He's a genius in the lifting world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he rules, and the body tempering is incredible. Like all that stuff. He's just a cool dude with a cool gym and really neat ideas, and like so smart. Just to sit there and like listen to him talk is freaking amazing, and just soak it all in.
I love it. Is the body tempering is basically a rolling mechanism. Kabuki has the same kind of a thing, I think. Is it just to roll out for essentially massage to get the muscles relaxed?
Yeah, it's man, I'm gonna butcher it, but it's essentially that same like idea, with just a massive amount of weight in the compression of rolling. So that was something cool while we were visiting there. Like we got to play around with a lot of those rollers. A big thing with equip lifters is how our feet feel on the ground. So like if your, nerve endings aren't firing properly and you can't feel the ground exactly how you need to feel the ground up through your calves, like your balance is going to be all off because you have so much weight on your back and you're trying to like navigate the gear plus not feeling right on your feet. And he did some stuff to the calves and like the back of the calf and the side of the calf with like some of those heavy rollers. And I've never felt like my feet were more responsive to the floor of my life until after that. I'm like, oh my God, I feel like my feet just turned on.
Wow.
That's impressive. So it's really cool.
I'll try that out. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you so much. I'll
thank you.
Tag you and everything when we premiere it.
Cool.
There's a couple of podcasts ahead of yours, including Jimmy's, but I think you're going to premiere right after his, and we do premieres on Saturdays at noon. So,
oh man, I should have talked more crap about him in this one. Maybe I could have like just done some Jimmy jokes. No, I have so much respect for that man. He has helped me in my bench, just taking it through the roof. We're about to go grab the all-time world record in November.
What is that going to be, by the way?
So that's in a band shirt. We're going to just grab it regardless of gear. 607.5 is the current record. So the plan is to open a little below that, take my second in the mid sixes, and then just send it on the third.
That'll be amazing.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm excited. He's helped me take my bench from a crappy bench to a much less crappy bench.
Fantastic. Oh, that was the other thing. Sorry, I'm not quite done with you.
No, you're good.
You have short, he was talking about short arms. My arms are like as long as a monkey's. And so my deadlift is amazing, but my bench is horrific.
Yeah.
So is your torso built better for one versus the other?
Yeah. So I am a much better like leverage bencher than I am a deadlifter.
Okay.
I can just like muscle up deadlifts. It's not good. But I'm at a huge disadvantage with how short my arms are and how short my torso is.
Okay.
With deadlifting, sumo or conventional, which is why I need to learn sumo so that I can like use the better, more advantageous leverages versus conventional. And then benching, like I don't have a huge crazy bench arch, but like my arms are so short and they're like pretty wide. So I can get away with a decent amount of like range, like optimal range of motion with my benching.
Gotcha. I can't get a bench. I mean, I can get a semi-natural bench arch, but I haven't quite figured out how to do something that's a little bit more crazy just to reduce that range of motion. So I'm gonna have to hit you up or Jimmy.
Yeah. Let Jimmy, send Jimmy some videos or send me videos and I'll check them out. Cause like, there's like a handful of things that you can just tweak very slightly in bench that will change, like make night and day difference. And you can do them like one at a time.
Okay.
And just trying and experimenting with that type of stuff will help with that, the long arms problem. Okay. Which sucks. I'm sorry. That does suck for bench.
I just go as wide as I possibly freaking can.
An amazing deadlift. You can just outpull everyone and be the deadlift specialist that all of us like short, stubby handed arm people are like, damn it, guys, how does he pull so much? He's got those long arms.
It's pretty amazing. And I'm actually considering switching to sumo because then it's basically me just lifting an inch off the floor. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that's,
you're never gonna be able to tell.
Rules. That's freaking awesome. So you're gonna do like you're thinking about doing a meet. Have you picked one out?
It's gonna be in I think the one that I want to do is in March in it's either in Charlotte or in Denver, North Carolina, which is only like or 30 minutes from here. So nice. Yeah. And I mean, I'm looking to go over 1,000 pound total because I think I'm pretty close to that already, but you know,
get it.
Yeah. So
I'm excited for you. First meet.
Be my first meet. Yep.
Yep. So, cool.
I'll be looking forward to it, but
awesome.
See how it goes. Where can people find you on social media? And if they want to be coached by you, are they going to hit up your Instagram? Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. They can just DM me, at Amber with 2 R's .Alice. And then my gym Instagram is obviously Unleashed, that one. And then I coach through at the Dirty Gym.
Okay.
And that's the one that's in Dayton. So freaking join the team.
Yeah.
Get nasty strong with us. It's a good time.
Awesome. I love it. And be looking out for, what's the name of the program that you guys were starting with the scholarship? Does it have an official title yet?
Oh, that is the Main Event Project. And we're kind of trying to partner with the Kolb Strong Scholarship. We haven't figured out all the details. It's still in the very like early stages of planning in terms of like where money is going to, how we're raising it, but we're like just trying to get the word out there and the mission out there. So it's at Main Event Project. And I share all of that stuff on my Instagram all the time. So you're going to get spammed with it if you follow me. Sweet. Plus memes though. I pepper some good memes in there every once in a while and some dogs.
Follow for dank memes.
It's dank strong memes. That's all anyone cares about anyway. They just want to laugh.
That's what Instagram is built for. That and then YouTube's for cat videos. Awesome.
Love a good cat video.
Well, thank you again, Amber. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
A lot of fun. I'll touch base with you when we premiere this, but I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good chatting.
All right, take care.
Cool.
Thank you for listening. please give FreedomCast a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. It would mean a lot to our business. Plus, it's fun to read y'all's reviews. See you next time.